fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at the Beast Combiner 2-pack of Optimus Primal and Skullcruncher from the Transformers Rise of the Beast line from Hasbro. So this is all part of the Beast Alliance line that they have going on here. There's combiners, weaponizers, all kinds of stuff going on. I think it looks like a lot of fun. I also just think it's really fun that Skullcruncher is like super relevant again. He made a small cameo in Cyberverse. He popped up in Earthspark. He's here again. I mean, he's not so much like a deep cuts character. He was one of the Decepticon headmasters. But I just think it's funny that, like, he's everywhere again. So, hooray, Skullcruncher. This one's also kind of fun because if you guys remember back in the day when Beast Wars first started out, Megatron was originally a green crocodile, alligator, whichever one of these this is. And so Optimus Primal was going to be a bat, and they did that 2-pack. And then when the cartoon came out, they obviously changed it to, you know, the gorilla and the T-Rex. So it's kind of fun. It's almost like an Optimus Megatron team-up in some form or another, but really it's Skullcruncher. But we have this kind of standard open packaging here where everything's just attached to the cardboard back with these little ties. We have a little picture here of what the combined mode looks like. Not really too much going on the bottom. Over here you can see it just says Beast Combiner 2-pack. And then we just have some shots of Optimus Primal. And then over here on the back we have the robot mode and the gorilla mode for Primal, and then the armor being connected. I don't think Skullcruncher has a robot mode. I think it's just animal mode and armor mode. But either way, I think this looks like a ton of fun. I'm going to go ahead and get everything out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. Here are Optimus Primal and Skullcruncher out of the packaging. I'm going to put Skullcruncher off to the side for the moment, and we will focus on Optimus Primal real quick. So coming in real quick to take a look at the face sculpt. I think it looks good. I really like the color blue used. I kind of wish that the face was silver and then just the helmet was blue. Because the paint is used very nicely. Like, it's a nice shade of dark blue. You have some black there. I like the light blue for the eyes. And you can see you have a little bit of silver here for the bottom lip. I just think it's too much of the same dark blue. I feel like the face should have been silver with just the helmet blue. But honestly, I don't even think he's blue in the movie. I think he's just mostly silver, so I guess the blue is just here to make the toy pop a little bit. But you have some nice paint here on the chest, some blue and some red. You got the Maximal symbol there in silver. You can see the like tufts of fur here molded into the shoulders, and then all along the back it's all done in brown, which I think is pretty cool. Here you have a little bit of blue on the sides of the forearms, and down here on the kneecaps, but that's pretty much it. But there's a decent amount of molded in detail. Some more fur over here on the backs of the hands, and some really cool detail down here in the legs and the feet. So I think that's pretty cool. Articulation, pretty basic. The arms are one solid piece, unfortunately, and that's just a ball joint there. Kind of wish we had either a bicep swivel. Honestly, I would prefer an elbow. I feel like they could have given us an elbow. I don't really know how that would have impacted anything negatively. I think it was just a cost-cutting measure, but I would have loved... If he had an elbow, I think he would honestly be pretty perfect. I don't need a ton of articulation. He's a smaller figure. You do have a ball joint here in the hip. You have a hinge in the knee. And then you have a hinge here at the ankle. Can't go back any further, but it comes forward, and that's for the transformation. But honestly, like I said, he's a tiny little figure. If he had elbows, I think he'd be pretty perfect. I don't really need like a head swivel or anything like that. It doesn't really bother me. But like I said, he is kind of a smaller figure. I would say he's close to a deluxe, but not quite the size of a deluxe. And unfortunately, I don't have a deluxe handy. I just put them all away this weekend. But here is a Legends class, just for an idea. And then I'm also going to bring in a Voyager class. Let me zoom out here. So just so you can get an idea, he's probably like half an inch to an inch shorter than a deluxe, if I had to guess. So just to give you a bit of a size comparison there. I wish I had a deluxe handy, and I apologize that I don't. I'll have to track one down later, but honestly, I would say he's just under the size of a deluxe. And I really just wish he had elbows. Let's get into transformation quick because it's pretty simple. Basically, the main component is grabbing a hold of the chest area, bringing this forward, spinning it around 180 degrees, and then folding it back in. And that is the majority of the transformation at this point. You're just going to kind of bring the legs up and collapse them like that. And then you can go ahead and tilt those feet forward. And that's pretty much it for the gorilla mode. Now, I get it. I mean, it's a gorilla. You don't really need it to transform that drastically. And it honestly looks pretty good. I think the gorilla face actually has a really nice sculpt. The eyes are painted nicely. You have a little bit of silver here for the eyebrows. You have a little bit of, the robot mode head sticking out the back there. But for the most part, I think that looks pretty good. The chest has some nice detail and some nice paint on it. So it is a very basic transformation, but honestly, I don't really need much more out of it, especially at this size. So yeah, I think it's fun. It's simplistic, but I think it's fun. He looks good. I mean, he looks like a gorilla. You can get the legs to go. There we go. And that honestly might be why they decided not to do like an elbow bend, just because they knew he'd have to kind of use the arms to balance. I don't know. I think it was a cost-cutting measure, but I'm trying to make up excuses for them. So I'm going to transform him back here. It's obviously a very quick and easy transformation. But I think it's fun. It is basic, but I think it's fun. You can see he's got these giant connector ports here on the shoulders. And I believe, let me see if I can actually test this theory. I believe these are the basic ports. That's not fitting well, but yeah, it can fit pretty much any accessory. If you have just like a gun or something from something else, that will actually fit. They are the same size. Let's see over here on the forearms. So you can use guns, weapons from anybody else in any of these ports. They're all the same universal size. So you've got 2 on each forearm. You got the 2 here on the shoulders. You even technically have one. This has got to be smaller, though. I don't think that's the same size. No, that's maybe like a flight stand or something. I think that's a smaller one. But I think that's cool. He can use any of the accessories from anybody else. That's nice. Gives you a lot more options. And when we bring in the other, like the weaponizers from the Beast Alliance, he'll be able to utilize those as well. So let's go ahead. Let's bring Skullcruncher in. Skullcruncher really doesn't have much going on. He looks good, though. I think the croc head looks nice. You can see it's got like the molded scales there. These gold pieces here are nicely painted. The alligator eyes or crocodile eyes, I'm still not sure which one it is, but nicely painted. He's got a gun there in the mouth. Now, unfortunately, you cannot open and close the mouth, and it's because of how we're going to transform this later on. The top of the head's going to come off. So you cannot open and close the mouth for that reason. But you do have ball joints here in each of the legs. Now, some of them have pieces in the way, so like this one, there's not much you can do, but if you lift it off of that, you can kind of spin it around. But I don't think you're going to get a ton of dynamic poses out of this, but you do have a ball joint for each of the legs. Tail has a little bit of gold paint here on the end, and this is going to pop off. And if you want, you can go ahead and give this to Primal as a weapon. He can hold it. So he's got a little sword there, which is pretty cool. And we'll come back to that again later on, but he can wield that weapon. And then that slides right back in there. So again, there's not a ton going on with him on his own, but he is meant to be armor for Primal, so let's go ahead and check that out. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, the directions say you can leave the tail on. Personally, I just like to take it off. But we're going to just kind of move these around. So just kind of swivel these around like so. These will kind of point straight up. And then we're just going to use these 2 pegs to connect here on the shoulders. Those 2 pegs I showed earlier. Let me zoom out here a bit. And then we're just going to make sure the legs are not blocking this. But we're going to grab a hold right here. Flip this out and then just pull this down. And as you pull this down, you can see how there's kind of a hook here. And as that comes up, it's going to hit this. So as we push this down, it's going to flip those shoulder pads to transform. And then at this point, you can kind of position the legs however you'd like. I'm going to put these up like this. Put these up like this. At this point, you're going to disconnect the top of the gator head. So bring that over here and peg that into the side of the arm to kind of give it a little bit of symmetry. This way you have a part of the gator head on both sides. There we go. So over here you have the bottom jaw, which has a gun. And then over here you have the top of the jaw, which is kind of like being used as an armor, I guess. But there you go. That is the armor. I think it looks actually really cool. This head here, you can almost kind of see Primal's mouth underneath, which I think is kind of cool. He's got the yellow eyes, really nicely detailed and painted. You have a little bit of detail here in the armor. And then you just have these giant shoulder pads on both sides. But I do like how they have this connect over here, so you kind of have the symmetry. Now, obviously, if you move the arms, this piece is going to just hang straight down. But you can also give him the sword again. So we'll pop this back into his hand. So I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I like it a lot. I think the colors go well together as well. The gray and the green and the gold and the blue. I think that all really works. And the nice thing is it doesn't really hinder his articulation. I mean, it's not in the way of the arms. You can move them around. Obviously, you can't go out to the side as much over here. But here you kind of can. But you can certainly move front to back, no problem. You can wield the sword, which is nice. Doesn't get in the way of the legs at all. So I think it's cool. I mean, you know, it's a little basic, I will admit. But I think it just looks ridiculous in the best kind of way. And I'm just having a lot of fun. Obviously, it reminds me very much of the armors they did back for Cyberverse, like, you know, Bumblebee with the giant battleship, etc. And I loved those. Those were big and dumb and stupid, and I loved them, and this is definitely giving me the same kind of vibes. And I just think this is a ton of fun. Let's see if I can get him to stand. There we go. I think this is a fun release. It's definitely on the more basic side, but I still think there's a lot of fun to be had here. The Optimus Primal figure is honestly not terrible. I wish it had a little bit more articulation. Honestly, the only thing I feel like it's really missing is elbows. If we had just a 90-degree elbow bend, I'd be pretty happy with this. It's a fun, little bit more basic figure. I think the paint applications are pretty good. I do wish that the face was a different color from the helmet, but that's just kind of a little nitpicky thing. Overall, it's got some pretty nice molded in details, some pretty good paint applications, decent articulation, and a fairly basic transformation. But again, I think it works, especially with it being a gorilla. You know, there's not really a lot of different ways you can transform just having a kind of a gorilla stand up. So I get that. I mean, even the original toy kind of just like had the shoulder pads and the waist switch. So I get it. It wasn't a ton of difference in terms of transformation. And I do think it's really cool how this kind of flips out, spins around, and then pops back in. It's a simple effect, but it works really well. I also like how all of these little millimeter, I guess they're the 5mm peg holes, can be used with any of the previous weapons, you know, from the past several years, because they've been keeping that uniform, which I think is really great. So pretty much any accessory you probably have can be used with that. Skullcruncher, the little gator, very basic in gator mode, really just has a little bit of leg movement here with the 4 ball joints, but he's cool. I don't really need him to do a ton. He's there to be armor, and you know, the shades of green plastic look nice. A little bit of gold and yellow paint for accent color looks good. I like how you can take, honestly, if you wanted to take the top of the head and the tail off and just have this guy use them as like a shield and a sword without having the rest of the armor, that's a possibility. Or you can do the full armor transformation, which I think is also fun. So they are definitely a little bit on the more basic side, but again, I still think they're a lot of fun. Now, the one thing I do want to comment on is the price, because this set was, I believe, $21.99 at Target, which seems a little bit much to me. Now, I know a lot of things right now are more than they should be, so maybe it doesn't make sense to complain about it in every individual video, but I feel like, you know, a couple years ago, this probably would have been like a $15 set. I could see as much as $17, $18. $22, I feel like, is definitely pushing the upper bounds. If this set was like $25, I would 100% say that's way too much. So it's kind of just up to you. Your mileage is going to vary. I definitely think these are fun personally. I think they're a lot of fun. These big goofy armors definitely remind me of the same thing they did back in Cyberverse, and those were a lot of fun. And I think they're kind of capturing the same magic here. And I do really like the detail and the paint applications. Like I said, could use a little bit more articulation, but they are fairly basic. But I also kind of think that's part of their charm. I mean, you wouldn't really want like a Studio Series figure with big goofy armor on top of it. I feel like the fact that they're a little bit more basic is kind of what makes them fun. I just feel like the price is definitely a couple dollars more than I think it needs to be, but I think that's just the kind of the state of things right now. I think because I've kind of been feeling the same thing with those Indiana Jones Worlds of Adventure toys that I've been picking up. They're fun. I like them a lot. They're just a couple dollars more than I think they should be, and I'm kind of feeling that again here. But if you can get past that, or maybe wait for a sale, I think there's definitely a ton of fun to be had here, and I'm looking forward to getting some more of these. I don't really know how far this kind of stuff is going to go. I mean, these kind of gimmick items, you know, come out while the movie's out. Maybe we'll get a wave 2. I really wouldn't expect much more past that, but you never know. Movie lines sometimes go way longer than you expect, so I guess it just depends on how well these do. But I think they're fun. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.